What's up? Real life Reddit here, back with another tale pulled straight from the depths of the Reddit vault. If you are new here, make sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button, and click on the bell before we get started. Alright, now that's done. Let's get straight into it.
Confession 1. I slept with my daughter's ex-boyfriend. He got me pregnant and I had an abortion. They got back together and got married. This was back in, let me think, maybe 1997? I was 38 and my daughter was 18. And she was dating Harry, who was 24. I was an alcoholic and dabbled in other drugs, mostly cocaine. I was not a good person, let alone mother. Not like I was abusive to my daughter or anything, but I was generally inattentive and cared more about my alcohol and drugs than her, especially in her teen years. I am 14 years sober now. I disapproved of my daughter dating Harry, but I never told her why. He would flirt with me constantly, and the age difference also creeped me out. Also, he was an alcoholic and drug user just like me. She broke up with him over his alcoholism. Soon after she moved away, not too far, but regardless, she didn't live with me anymore. Harry kept calling me and asking if we wanted to get drinks. I turned him down. But then one day he said he had a bunch of coke and I couldn't resist. He came over, we did the coke, and we ended up having sex. He was a very good-looking guy. He looked a lot like that ridiculous 80s Justin Bieber picture that was on the front page today. That is actually what made me think about him. For the next few months, maybe like 3 to 4 months, he would sometimes come over and we would have sex and do drugs and get drunk together. Any addict knows what that is like to have an addict buddy in that way. Then I got pregnant. I knew it was by him. I had sex. Without protection a few times stupidly. I never told him I was pregnant, and I went and got the abortion and kept it a secret. Anyways, I stopped seeing him after that. It was too weird. I also got sober for like 4 months before relapsing. Fast forward 2 years, and my daughter contacts me and tells me that she got back with Harry and that he is fully sober. I was mortified, honestly. He was gonna tell her that we slept together, and she is going to hate me for life. They came over one day and said hi. And when my daughter was gone, Harry told me that there is no reason to tell her about what happened. I agreed. It's been 16 years of marriage on their part. They have a kid together. Harry got cancer, then beat it. I got sober. That's basically it. I don't see them very often. They live in Texas and I live on the East Coast. But whenever I do, there is always that tension between me and Harry. It's literally the first thing that comes to either of our minds. I can just tell. Not like sexual tension, like, why did we have to do that? What the fuck is wrong with us? Kind of tension. I think about this often, especially when I see my grandson. I always think that could have been my son if things had gone differently, but wow, what a disaster that would have been if I decided to keep that child. Confession 2. Cop pulled me over and I called 911 and lied to get out of going to jail. When I was 19, I was running late to work in my tiny POS economy car, and on fumes of gas, I didn't come to a complete stop on a right turn. Lights behind me, so I pull over. I know I've barely got any gas at all and was almost to a gas station, hence why I rolled through the stop a little, trying not to have the car die. At the time, around 1995, a new digital phone had come out called VoiceSteam, now T-Mobile, and their whole big thing was the phones were digital and not cellular. They were the first phones with caller ID. And one of the big things the salesman had said over and over was since it was digital, the signal couldn't be triangulated or traced. Not that I cared, but it stuck in my mind. Well, as I give the cop my license, registration, and insurance card, I got an idea. I knew if I was late to work, I was going to lose my job. They were super strict there. So I get an idea, and right after I hand the papers to the cop and he's walking back to his cruiser, I called 911 and tell the operator I just saw a guy with what looked like a shotgun walk into a 7-Eleven that was about 2 blocks away. I confirmed the address. Then I hung up. About 30 seconds later, the cops come sprinting to my car and hands me all my stuff and rushed says, "Come to a complete stop next time," then peels off to the direction of the store. Pushed my car to the gas station that I'd almost made it to and felt pretty pleased with my ingenuity. I was an idiot and I confess. Edit. Wow, this blew up. I forgot to mention I would have gotten arrested, booked, and released because I was driving with a suspended license for unpaid traffic tickets and I had a bench warrant for it because I'm an idiot. So it wouldn't have been just a few minutes late to work. The job was a physical high turnover one that didn't tolerate much. Confession 3. I'm putting my extremely profoundly disabled 7-year-old into a residential facility so I can forget he exists. I'm not sorry. I can't tell anyone this, even my therapist. Lambast me if you want are, and maybe I even deserve it. I only ask what you would do if you were in my situation. Not what you think people should do. What you would really do. I'm a single mom of 2 boys, 12 and 7. My husband passed away 3 years ago in a work accident. A very large portion of me believe it was an unaliving. I can't see him ever making the mistake he made that caused his death, and he had taken an action just before that which ensured his coworkers weren't in the room. I fully believe he killed himself because of our younger son, and no one will ever change my mind. We were told when I was pregnant that he would have Down syndrome. We could handle that, even if it was severe. It turned out he has a chromosome deletion. His disorder is kind of rare, so I won't post which specific one, but suffice to say, he'll never be anything more than he is now or has ever been. And what he is nothing. He doesn't appear to have any awareness and never has. His eyes are locked in one position. He doesn't respond to noise, touch, or pain. He is total care. He is capable of nothing. He is tube-fed and on oxygen. He is in diapers and will be forever. He makes no sounds, no attempts to communicate. He never even really cried as a baby. He has never made an attempt to interact with anyone or his environment. I'm not upset because I got a special needs child. I feel the way I feel because this thing takes up 200% of my time and does nothing. I didn't get an imperfect child. I didn't get a child. I don't love him. He doesn't have any personality. There is nothing to love. And yet I'm responsible for him. In addition to his extreme delays, he's also medically fragile. Respiratory crises, fecal impactions, his autonomic nervous system doesn't function properly. Issues with his G-tube, infections, pressure sores, no matter what we put him on or how we position him. Our older son has suffered because his non-existent brother has colored everything in his life. He's had medical care get delayed because there's only one of me, and Ha's brother is more critical. We do have a visiting home nurse, but only 20 hours a week, and we aren't eligible for more. I was starting law school, I gave up my dreams and my plan for my children for this potato. My older son can't do a lot of things he wants to do because of the younger's need for care and appointments. The final straw was, I heard a sound. I went into younger son's room to check, thinking he had forgotten how to breathe again, and saw older son hitting him and screaming, "You're why I don't have a mother. You're why I don't have a father. You're why I can't have friends over. You're why I can't be in sports. I didn't ask for you and I hope you die." Instead of being horrified, I watched, and younger son just did, not react. No signs of pain or fear or upset, no reaction at all. He breathes, but he is not alive. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know who older son is. He has no sense of self, life experience, or awareness of his surroundings. He doesn't need to be in my home. He doesn't know or care where he is. He is genetically my son, but he is not family. My previously abused, brain-damaged cat who can't walk straight has more personality and is far more lovable than my child. In fact, I was looking forward to raising a Downs baby, even one with severe impairments for that reason. With disability can come gifts. This boy is not a gift. He is a genetic mistake I probably should have miscarried and would have definitely terminated if I'd known he would be like this. And the flip side is, if he has awareness, he's miserable, and there's nothing I can do. If he has likes and dislikes, no one knows what they are. If he is in pain, he can't tell anyone. If he wants anything, he can't communicate. He's had every imaginable therapy. Nothing has made a difference. And so he's leaving our home on the 29th. I feel excited and relieved, and then guilty, because I know we'll be happier with him gone. He's already taken my husband and my son's father. He was working so much overtime to pay for the cucumber's care, for the experimental therapies insurance wouldn't cover, because this one was going to be the breakthrough. He was tired and defeated and disappointed. He sought counseling as well, but I don't think he could ever say the words, "I don't want my son in my home," either. He's ruined my older son. I was so wrapped up on the younger, I never realized how ignored and damaged he was. He lost his father too. I didn't just lose my husband. He is my priority now, and this malignant lump can be someone else's problem. At least they'll be paid a wage to care for him. At least they'll get a break from him when they punch out. I just want to never think of him again, and I'm not sorry. And for that, I'm sorry. Confession 4. I used to bully my disabled brother for years. I know this will get a lot of hate, and yes, I deserve it. I am not looking for any validation or forgiveness. I know I'm a piece of human trash. I just need to get this out. I have a brother who is 2 years older than me. He has suffered from a condition since birth that forces him to be in a wheelchair anytime he is out of bed. He cannot use his arms that well either. We used to have a great relationship until I turned 11 and I really started resenting the amount of attention he took from my parents and how much stress he put them under. I had to constantly help him, change him, feed him. I hated it. There was a few years in his life when he's so mean to my parents and it really made me resent him more. I realize now that I had no right to judge him and I will never know how difficult life is for him. I stopped hanging out with him and made more friends at school. I would tell my family all the fun I was having at school during dinner to make him feel bad. I started barely talking to him or acknowledge his presence. He would get frustrated to the point of tears to get my attention. It started escalating 2 years ago when I would purposely turn off the Wi-Fi and unplug the TV every time we had to leave the house so my brother could do nothing but sit in his wheelchair. I would purposely delete his favorite saved shows on the DVR. I would make fun of his speech, push things just out of his reach. I would act disgusted when I had to change or bathe him. It always made him feel bad and he would apologize. I made my own brother apologize for taking a dump. What the fuck is wrong with me? But my fucking saint of a brother never told my parents, and he never let me have it. 3 weeks ago, he was trying to talk to me nonstop and I was just ignoring him. I got annoyed and wheeled him against his wishes to the backyard and placed him under an umbrella and went back inside. I fell asleep and realized I left him out there for 3 hours. When I went to bring him back inside, he was in tears and wouldn't look at me. He was humiliated. I have always felt guilty about how I treated my brother all these years, but my anger towards him overpowered it. But seeing that look on his face affected me in a way that was different from before. I stopped all the bullying after that day. I couldn't even look him in the face, I was so ashamed. Last Sunday, my brother told me he was glad I was his brother and friend. I couldn't even respond. I went to my room and cried. I'm fucking crying again, typing this all out. When did I become an evil, trash human being? Fuck. I'm 17 and he's 19 now. I know there is nothing I can do to make up for the past 6 years. My brother will be returning with my mom from a specialist appointment tonight. I'm going to apologize to him and beg for his forgiveness tonight. I want to start being a fucking decent brother to him again. I am a healthy guy with no issues who chose to bully his only brother for something that wasn't even his fault. I am so ashamed of myself. Update. A lot of people were asking for an update, so here it is. I wrote up a long-ass apology letter that I wanted to read to my brother. I waited until he got home and got into bed for the night. I knocked on his door and he was so fucking excited that it was me. I couldn't even get through the first few words. I started crying after saying, I wanted to say I'm really sorry, and just couldn't get through it. I just got into bed with him and laid down next to him. He hugged me really tight and said, I missed you, buddy. I fucking lost it. I never cried that bad before. He just hugged me for a long time until I calmed down. We didn't talk much. He started crying for a bit too. It was the first time in a long time we just hugged. After half an hour, I got up and gave him a kiss and he told me he was so happy. Why didn't I do this earlier, fuck? I thought I try apologizing properly again tomorrow. I left him the note to read anyway. I am feeling very hopeful right now and a lot of pressure in my heart is gone. I swear to God, and on my own life, I will never treat my brother so badly again. I have been working part-time for the past year and I was saving some money so my brother and my mom could go on a trip to a place he really wanted to go to. But I think I will take my brother myself instead when I turn 18. I also realized that I need to have a relationship with my brother where I am not just taking care of him. It needs to be like a normal brother relationship, like going for movies and stuff. It's going to take some time for me to fix the mess I created, though. I'm just lucky my brother's amazing. I received a lot of messages. I appreciate everyone for their input, and I did read them all, even if I didn't reply. Thanks, everyone. Confession 5. I used to go into random homes in my neighborhood when the occupants weren't home. This was in the mid-'80s when security wasn't like it is now, and also, lots of families didn't even lock their doors. The first time I ever did this was when I was riding my bike in the neighborhood and saw a front door of a home wide open. I peeked in and said, "Hello," just to see if someone was home. No one answered. I stood in the living room just scanning the area and got spooked and left. After that day, I was hooked on it. I would wait for people to leave and enter through whichever door window was open and would walk around. I never stole anything, but I did open drawers, closets, and went through personal belongings. I once found a wad of money rolled in up a sock. I took the money and sock and put it in the next drawer over. I felt like I needed to leave a mark, so I ended up moving dishes in cabinets. Like I switched the cups with plates and moved utensil drawers to another spot in the kitchen. I did this in about 8 or 9 homes until people started talking and getting suspicious, and of course, people started locking their doors, including our family. I stopped after that. Someone did call the police, but nothing ever came of it since nothing was stolen. I haven't trespassed in anyone's home, but I do switch things around in other homes when I'm invited over. Confession 6. As a child, I copied a poem from a book and won first place in a poetry contest. When I was in the 3rd grade, I was very into reading, writing, and often stayed up far past my bedtime reading anything within my comprehension level that I could get my hands on. We had a stack of children's encyclopedias I loved on all sorts of topics. Dinosaurs, the planets, world history, etc., including one of stories, Tsar poems. One poem stood out in particular. It was about solitude in nature and really struck a chord with me. Because I loved the poem so much, I copied it down into a journal I had of my own writing and passages, poems I found inspiration in. Because I was so young, talking single digits here, it never occurred to me to write down the author or anything, especially not in my own journal. A few weeks went by and my mom had stumbled upon journal while cleaning my room. She read the poem and assumed it was original writing. She approached me about it that night and was so proud of it. Like any 8-year-old, I wanted my mom's approval and pride, so I didn't tell her I had actually found the poem in a book. I didn't think it would be a big deal, and she was so proud. Fast forward a month or two, my mom is reading the Sunday paper and sees a poetry contest for young people. She immediately thinks of my poem and insists I enter it. That afternoon, she had my dad drive us to his office so she could type it up before home computers. She sends a copy into the newspaper and, of course, because it's an 8-year-old's name on an adult's published poem, it wins the first prize in my age group. My parents are so happy with me and I feel so incredibly guilty. Within the next month, the poem and my picture are ran on the front page of the art section in the paper. I am invited to read the poem as part of an award ceremony for all the contest's participants. Of course I go because my mom wants us to, and why wouldn't I? I get a small award, a ribbon, and maybe a gift card? I don't remember. What I do remember is feeling so incredibly guilty. I have spent more sleepless hours over this poem than I can count. A few years later, we learn about plagiarism in school, and I feel as though I'm being personally called out. I remember tearing out the book's page with the poem, ripping it up and throwing it away, wrapped in an unused sanitary napkin because I was so afraid anyone would find out. It's been 20 years since that award ceremony, and even though I realize it was a childhood mistake that isn't even that large, I still can't quite shake the guilt. Confession 6. I use my roommate's face towel to clean up his pee. He still hasn't noticed. I go to college in the Midwest United States. I live in a dorm and have a roommate who shares a bathroom with me. He's not from the United States and seems a little nervous to talk to anybody who isn't from his home country. The first few weeks of college, I started to notice pee on the toilet seat. No big deal, I cleaned it up. After about the 10th time, I asked him if he could stop peeing on the toilet seat or if he does, wipe it up. He said okay and went on his day. About 3 months later, I started to notice pee all over the floor, toilet seat, and all around the toilet. Worse than before, I used my own toilet paper and started going through it very quickly, so it was getting expensive. I ended up walking over to his side of the counter and grabbing one of his extra towels. I've been using it to clean pee for about 1 month now, and I've definitely noticed a change in color due to the urine and the fact that I've never seen him wash it. I feel bad about it, but what he's doing is disgusting, and I've tried to tell him to stop many times. Should I feel sorry and stop? Edit. Just a few edits because everybody keeps asking the same questions. He's from Taiwan, but has lived in the US for a couple years. I'm 100% positive it's pee. It's sticky and yellow. Confession 7. I sabotaged my father's marriage because he cheated on my mother. When I was 4 years old, my father and mother divorced because he cheated on her. They had a really rough divorce and had lots of fights. Eventually, the divorce was settled and my mother and father could move on. My father married his mistress, who I'll call E, as to respect her privacy. My father was really happy with her and me, and my sister got a stepbrother and 2 stepsisters with whom we got along really well. Skip forward 2 years, and E started acting different, and so was my father. Me and my sister often couldn't visit our father because he had to work, whilst in reality he was free. When me and my sister were there, we often weren't allowed to eat at the table, which 7-year-old me didn't understand. Eventually, my father started becoming more distant. He didn't wish me happy birthday anymore and missed a lot of important milestones in my childhood, like learning to ride my bike or plays at school. When I was 9, my sister and I could only visit 4 days a month and had to sleep in separate rooms. I vividly remember that during one weekend that we were there, I had accidentally broken a glass and E had turned furious. She sent me upstairs and had me take my socks, of which 9-year-old me found really weird. Then she showed me a piece of glass she held in her hand and said that this is what I deserved for my clumsiness. She pushed the shard of glass into the sole of my foot. I yelled and cried and tried to remove my leg from her grasp when I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was my father's hand. He was helping E do this. I don't remember what happened after that. E also got into a huge fight with my sister and had pulled her by her hair down to the basement. After these 2 occasions and a lot of verbal abuse, we decided to break all contact and tell our mother what had happened. We hadn't told her before because, well, he was our father. My mother knew this was serious abuse, but she was too afraid to alert the police since my father had threatened her with violence before. Skip forward another 5 years. I was 14 and a freshman at the same school my former step-siblings attended. Once I saw them all, the memories started rising again. My 2 stepsisters had become huge bullies, and lots of people hated them. Me and a couple of friends decided to retaliate and secretly put small bags of weed in their backpacks. Apparently, this had caused a huge fight in their home, and my father and E decided to divorce. After this, E got into serious financial troubles and my father became an alcoholic. 2 weeks ago, he was arrested for assault. E has allegedly become a prostitute and my former step-siblings have been brought into protective custody. This has all been my fault. It was my idea to put the marijuana in their bags, even though they hadn't done anything to me. I ruined the lives of my step-siblings and sent my stepmother and father into a downward spiral. Yet in some sick way, I don't feel any remorse. My sister has been dealing with a severe eating disorder after all the verbal abuse from E and has been hospitalized twice. I've tried once to end my life because of my sexual orientation since I thought I was an abomination after E's conservative Christian rants. Now me and my sister are doing better, though we still have traumas. We've thought about starting a lawsuit, but because of our ages during the incidents, legal advisors have advised us to just move on. Anyway, I'm in a real moral dilemma. I did something that caused horrible things, yet I don't feel any remorse. Am I a psychopath? Confession 8. I used to charge a kid a made-up fat tax. A long time ago, I was a high schooler at a boarding school. I was a decent kid in the eyes of the teachers and school administration. In fact, they liked me so much that throughout my time there, I was able to rise through the student ranks. I became a prefect. Then I became the head boy. And at one point, I had passed training that allowed me to run my own sports sessions or event where I was supervising younger and even a few older kids. This was just basic training for first aid, situational awareness, etc. At one point, the school had so much trust in me that I was allowed to leave the school premises alone in the afternoons. This was huge, and very few students had this privilege. In typical fashion, as soon as I received the privilege, I began abusing my powers as a free man. The school was very adamant on getting us balanced meals, so we weren't allowed to get food delivered. All delivery vehicles were refused entrance. Having the privilege of leaving the premises meant that I didn't have to order junk food and risk getting caught. I could simply go out to any fast food joint and bring food back with me. It all started out as an exclusive club. Myself and my friends were munching on McDonald's and KFC as the plebeians were having the filthy, healthy cafeteria foods. Then I was offered something I couldn't refuse: money. Not long after, I had built a whole operation for bootlegging junk food into the school. We had cut off times for orders, a priority list for regular customers, extra fees for late orders, and even a spreadsheet for keeping a record of orders, payments, and profits. This smuggling was next level. We were organized, knew all the fire exits, where to walk to avoid corridor cameras, and how to pack the food so that it's unnoticeable when walking in. Mostly used sports bags with a thin layer of clothes. The teachers knew something was going on. There was food wrappers everywhere, but no one knew how it came in. Business was booming, and I was making profits of $50 a day for 3 to 4 days a week. But it wasn't enough. I was hungry for more. There was a fat kid that ordered regularly. So I pulled the most asshole move you could do to your best customer. I started charging 2 times the price for his orders, and I would hide behind a bullshit moral barrier claiming we were doing this for his own good, since we learned in economics that increased prices reduce demand, and so he would be eating less, and he would lose weight. The kid saw straight through the BS, but in the end, he couldn't resist it and continued ordering from me. Mahmoud D, if you are reading this, I'm sorry.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out the other videos on my channel. See you next time.